My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, and it's the final. We waited for it for such a long time. We've gone through heartbreak, we've gone through joy, we've gone through excitement, we've gone through despair, everything that a great tournament does. And now it's England, favourites before the tournament started, and New Zealand, who just seem to find a way to do well in World Cups. It's England versus New Zealand in the final at Lord's. We've got quite a team to put together. In fact, we're spoiled for choice. So we've got two World Cup veterans here in our studio, and we've kept young Robin Uthappa for the mid-show. And afterward, Zaheer Khan, 2 finals. Ajay, Jadeja, 3 World Cups.
No finals.
But 3 World Cups. Yes. Yeah, 3 World Cups, 92, 96,
Yeah.
99.
Yes.
And that big semi-final in 96.
Yeah, the day would like to forget.
Doesn't matter, it was a semi-final.
Yeah, there was just something
Which
to
is
learn.
what I actually want to start off with. By the way, the news is that the game will be delayed by 15 minutes. The toss is delayed by 15 minutes. That gives us a chance to talk to Zach about being in those 2 finals. What's the feeling like? You get up in the morning and say, is it just another day? Do you say, right, it's a final? Because you saw both ends of being on the morning of a final, right? In 2003 and 2011.
Yeah, it's been completely contrasting finals for me, and what you're talking about, the pitch report today, whatever we've been hearing so far.
Yeah, might as well tell them what Saurav Ganguly said on the pitch report was that sun is out right now, the pitch is bright and hard, a lot greener than expected, a lot of grass, so early seam movement, which must be music to your ears even if you're in the studio.
No, but that was the story of 2003.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it was pretty much similar, of sort of a surface where we were hoping that there is going to be certainly some kind of seam movement, and we can put pressure on the strong Australian batting lineup in that 2003 World Cup finals. It's just that after the national anthem, something just took over. I think that whole excitement of
which is
playing the
interesting.
finals.
I just wanted to ask you, can that happen to the 2 teams there?
It can. I've personally experienced it. It's something which just you sometimes try to do things which you're not naturally accustomed to. You know, maybe the occasion overwhelms you at times. The want to do well or to do that extra bit because it's finals at times can affect you, and that's something which happened to me in 2003.
And didn't happen in 11?
No, I was well prepared for 2011. After that experience, I was never going to get let the emotions get better of me. I think it was an emotional moment as well, and especially how it's like you get those goosebumps when you're standing for that national anthem just before the start of play. That really took me to another zone, which was not something which I was carrying myself with in 2003 World Cup. It was just about controlled aggression up till that point, and the 2003 first 3 overs was just random blabbering and showing off strength of sorts, because the first ball seemed, and it just took me to another zone, and I got enough punches from Gilly and Aiden both for me to react. It was too late in the game. So those are the margins which I'm talking about. The finals, it's all about those small margins which and the moments. If you let go of that, it's very hard to come back. So that is something which finals, the occasion of the finals bring to you. 2011 was completely different experience for me, where I was just calm and composed. I was hearing the national anthem, and I was emotionally attached to it. But at the same time, I kept myself very detached from the game. In terms of going in the game and going with the game. I've always in my career, I think from that 2003 finals moment on, I was very detached I had a very detached way of approaching matches, wherein I used to let the match take over and react to the match situations and scenarios rather than playing cricket in my head.
So that's when he became the cool one, right, Ajay?
There's 2007 in between as well. I think that put everything in place. I thought.
What are we talking? 2007.
I mean, it was
never happened.
That's when we won the World Cup.
The World T20.
Negative always.
Did you feel that way about the semi-final, Calcutta? The reason I'm asking is there's such a lot of talk in England about what's happened since 2015, about how this great band of warriors is going to do it for England. They've never known what it is to be in this situation for the last 27 years. So can that take over England? Is that an aspect that could play in New Zealand's favour almost?
It could. I mean, like he just mentioned, I mean, there's 22 individuals. I mean, there's more, but 22 will actually play a part in that game. And I'm sure that all those 22 aren't similar kind of people. What is important, as you hear from him, and what we've seen in the semi-finals is, who are the guys who are taking the strike or the strike bowlers to start with. Because, the game would probably start off with that real tension or nerves or whatever you may give a term to. And then, the game moves into a phase where, it's solidity and each one's waiting for the other guy to make a mistake. And then the nerves come right at the end. So I think if you look at all the World Cups that we've seen from '83, if I can think of, there's only one World Cup game that final that some team came back or did something right at the end and turned it around. Otherwise, it's always been, not one side. '83, we would like to believe that at the end it did end up being one-sided. But most games, '93, '96 final, if you remember, Arvinda just coasted home. 2003 was, we just heard from him. 2007, Australia was always commanding. 2011, if Dhoni finished a game a couple of overs before the overs were left, you can imagine how easy that must have been.
Yeah.
So I always believe it's the start of when a nervous game starts, and then it's the end. But till the end, you got to, first you got to.
You won't know too much about being worked up before a big game, would you? You're always been.
Look, like I said, there were 22 people in two sides, and they're all not the same. And I'm certainly one of those who probably just turned up 5 minutes before the toss. So so you have advantages of being lazy, not focused, or not worrying too much about what's going to happen.
Not sticking to routine.
Not sticking to routine.
No, you have to stick to routine. Ajay was very lucky because there was
I guess how you get trained as well.
Yeah.
Because it's been very interesting. I've learned so much from Robin. You just mentioned Robin, and I've been talking to him. He's the generation that is playing now, and it is different. Every time we look at sport in 10, 20 year periods, you'd look at that same sport and say, oh, this was important. Now it isn't. Now something else is important. And the game moves on.
The game's moved on, actually.
And what we hear now, all captains and including us say, no, it's just another game. We think of it like that. That's how actually it should be, because it's only a game.
Yeah. Question is, are they saying it or do they actually believe in it? For a long time, it was a no-brainer. You win the toss and chase, right? Everybody chased. This World Cup is different. Everyone wants to win the toss and bat first, and suddenly teams are scared of chasing. Today, World Cup final, you want to bat first?
Well, ideally for the finals, that's the safest approach to have, because that pressure of scoreboard which you're talking about, the pressure of the finals which you're talking about, do come into play at some stage. But the important thing is to get to that par score or somewhere close to that, for you to build that kind of pressure. So you, even though that is the safest thing to do, you still have to take conditions into account, unless the conditions are very much in favor of bowling, you would want to bat first.
That's how the World Cup started. This World Cup started with teams winning the toss and chasing. And then suddenly one morning, all 8 captains got up and said, no, we are batting. And it's interesting, England have lost, the 3 games England lost have all been lost chasing.
Yeah, I think there's been a big change, like you said. The trend was 400 is what everybody was expecting, 350s, 400s.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Williamson has won the toss and is batting.
Oh, he's batting. So, he's answered our question. But just to go back to that trend of this World Cup, everybody brought a side or came there prepared to play these 380, 400 run games. In a 300, 400 run games, when you're chasing, the game is only right at the end. You need 100 off the last 10, you got few wickets in hand, you can do it. But that hasn't happened. That's because, you've had wickets being taken in the middle. What India was doing to the rest of the world with, Kuldeep and Chahal, I think that showcased to everybody else, look, one-day cricket is not in the middle, that you don't have to wait for the others to get you out. And a lot of wickets have fallen, throughout this World Cup in the middle, not just with our bowlers. And that has put so much pressure on the guys who are coming to chase at the end. And chase is not easy in conditions like this. It's not flat wickets like in India. It's not like IPL where the last 10 overs you have 4 overs being bowled by mediocre bowlers. It's only 2 overs that you have to worry. Here you have pure bowlers who are bowling at the end. So the chasing has been difficult.
Last 22 games, 17 have been won by the side batting first. So that's been that's been a major change that's come about. The other thing that's happened at this World Cup, and once we get the teams, we'll see that reflected in the teams, is that the spinners have had a terrible tournament. Chahal was a leading wicket taker among the spinners with 12. He wasn't setting the World Cup on fire. Imran Tahir was second with 11, and that's it. It was a fast bowlers tournament.
I think barring those two spinners and to a certain degree Santner, I think Santner is also in
The odd game
list of
though, yeah.
spinners which had made some kind of impact. But overall, it has been dominated by the fast bowlers. There's no doubt about it. They've had a great impact on the tournament.
Without the ball swinging so much.
Because there was help from the wicket.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the World Cup or the conditions, English conditions, where we've seen there's a lot of swing in the air. That's something which we have not seen. But what we've seen consistently is some kind of assistance from the wickets for seamers, be it to give them some advantage to bowl those cutters into the wicket, slower ones, which we've seen more often.
A lot of
that had an advantage, especially bowling second. We've seen some kind of reverse swing also in some venues where the conditions were dry. So that has come into play, and we've seen some good seam movement off the pitch from especially with the new ball in some matches. So that is something which bowlers have been very consistently happy with right throughout the tournament.
Now, both teams are playing the same 11, which is entirely predictable. I think this 11 has served both teams well. The only issue with New Zealand was that whoever opened with Guptill wasn't scoring runs. Guptill himself wasn't scoring runs, but they've decided they'll go with the same side, Henry Nicholls. So, I mean, they're batting first, but surely Kane Williamson must be saying, can I get a second sip of my cup of tea before I go out to bat? Because he's out there all the time.
Yeah.
I think after that 137 opening partnership against Sri Lanka, their biggest opening partnership was 35, and they've got there are a lot of single-digit opening partnerships. So it's really Williamson, Taylor who've been holding that side up. But it's a final. As you said, if they make 300 in the final, it'll be brilliant if Guptill gets off. Yeah. We've been waiting for a long time for Guptill to tee off, but it's like he's in the clubhouse. He's not on the course.
He's had a torrid time.
Yeah.
Things could turn around, like we keep saying. Form comes back. One ball you hit in the middle and you feel good. That man hit a ball on that wicket that whole of India will never forget. You know, so that is an impact because it's all in the mind. Overnight, your technique doesn't change. It's a feel that a batsman has that, look, I can get runs, because that's when you get through a difficult period. And when there's a feel that, oh, I'm struggling, that's when you don't get through. So maybe that feel has changed, and he has to come good sometime. I mean, if he doesn't come good this time, you know, maybe it can happen. But, you know, I just have a feeling with bowlers, like he said, you know, when they see that ball seaming, sometimes they try a bit too hard. So maybe, you know, the bowler, because they've got used to bowling that first ball, you know, they got Finch off that first ball. So maybe, you know, you look at a batsman at the other end and say, oh, this guy is struggling, let me try and go there. And just that little mistake that goes on his legs and flicks one for 4, suddenly things can change. So
it's interesting what Morgan has said. He said it was a 50-50 call. The overheads will lean towards the ball. So he says, that's what it could be. Tell me, underdog. Everyone's been calling New Zealand underdog. There's a lovely line actually from Kane Williamson. Whatever dog we are, doesn't matter if you're top dog, underdog. There's something about Williamson. He's very calm. He's very dignified. If you go into a final thinking I'm the underdog, can it actually work against you, or will you say I have nothing to lose, so I'm cool? Or will you say, no chance, we are underdogs?
No, in a final, I think being an underdog is a great place to be, because there's no pressure. The term only takes the pressure off. No one is expecting you to win. So that is a relief of sort. So if you actually go in the match thinking that, okay, fine, if we win the match, everyone is going to be surprised and they'll say that, oh, this team has been underdog, and that means you've been playing good cricket, but not consistent enough to win the tournament. But on that particular day, you can beat any team. So that is basically the by and large explanation of the term, and that has been the story of this New Zealand side. They're the last finalist. So that means they have enough in them to reach the finals consistently. They've been reaching semi-finals pretty much
eight semi-finals.
Yeah, so that
England would just turn up.
That shows that they've always been this kind of a team. You know, they're a very consistent team to get to semi-finals. It's just that whether they have it in them to do that last push. Where in England, is the top dog. If you're just talking in the dog terms, so England is a top dog of this tournament. Even before the tournament had started, they've been saying that okay, England is someone who is going to be the winners of, or maybe possibly the highest ranked team in this World Cup, and they will be able to win. That adds pressure.
Yeah, he says, I haven't allowed myself to think about lifting that trophy because cricket is very fickle. If you get ahead, it bites you in the backside, gives you a kick up the backside. So it's interesting too. These are two slightly different kind of captains. Owen Morgan's captaincy guru is Brendan McCullum, who was captain of New Zealand last time. Kane Williamson has moved away a little bit from the McCullum style to the more Williamson style, fight, great hang in there kind. Whereas McCullum said something interesting before the Indian semi-final on the day between the two games. He said, bilateral game, 250, you lose every day. He said, semi-final, 250, you win most days. Semi-final of a World Cup, 250, you win most days. So I'm just thinking here, because Owen Morgan is also, Williamson said, we're having a bat, it's a tough decision. But we are batting first. So there must be something in the air that they're...
Yeah, and there must be. I mean, we don't know about the wicket, but if you look at the two sides, not on paper, but on ground in this World Cup, England's definitely a better side.
Yes.
So if you are not as good a team as the opposition is, then you'll have to do something more than what you're capable of, or you'll have to go through some tough times. In that case, if you bat first, it'll be tough to bat those first 10, 15 overs, but you will have to get through. Otherwise, even if you don't bat first and you're chasing 340, you may still not win game. So you got to pick and choose when you are making a decision, especially when you are a team that's not good enough to beat the opposition. So I think that's the call that Kane Williamson's made, and that's how he leads his side. He's led his side how? His side was never the best side playing against any of those sides. So what would he do? He would take chances. He's one captain that you've seen. He's had fielders in the middle. You'd had 5, 6, 7 in the middle where he's allowed to put people at the back. When you are a superior side, you can just carry on doing the regular business and you'll still end up winning. So he's taken those chances. He looks more solid, and in fact, even in that partnership between him and Ross Taylor against India, who was the first guy to take a chance? It was him. Unfortunately, he got out that day. But so he's taking chances, but he's taking chances only when required.
Now, you can pick your own teams as well. The actual teams have been picked, but this is how you can do it. You can play the game as well, how to play My 11 Circle. First of all, you download the app. You've been doing this right through the tournament, and a lot of you have been doing it. Select a match, create your own team, and go ahead, pick from either side. Now, we showed you that New Zealand side. Let's take a look at that England team again, Zach, and look at the bowlers rather than the batsmen. We looked at it. We talked about the spinners not having a great tournament. There's only one spinner in that team. Occasionally, Joe Root will bowl a bit, but they've gone quick again. Chris Woakes, typical English seamer.
Yeah.
But Archer quick, Mark Wood quick. How much difference has Jofra Archer made to that side?
Well, I think to start with, Chris Woakes will be very happy
with the conditions.
With the conditions and bowling first, so the wicket is fresh. The maximum help for bowlers is going to be in that first half an hour, 40 minutes, and that's something which he would be looking to thrive on. And Jofra Archer has been that X factor for this England team. There is no doubt about it. What I liked from the last game, the semi-finals which they played against Australia, was they were not afraid of pitching the ball up. I think the conditions were actually more suited for batting. They learnt from their last game against Australia, which they played at Lord's, where the conditions were in favor of fast bowling, particularly early on, and they were afraid of pitching that ball up. They were courageous enough to get that ball up, the length up, the test match length, which usually we talk about, that 5.5 meter.
Glad you mentioned that, because this World Cup, we all thought, and we mentioned that there as well, it's going to be a 350, 380 World Cup. We thought it's going to be a long T20 game.
So if English bowlers,
a small test match,
if English bowlers continue with that, and they should be the ones to be backing themselves more, because it's their home conditions. They know that in English conditions you can afford to pitch the ball up, get people driving. It's not easy when the wicket is sticking a little or there is some seam movement to just drive through the lines. Your slip come into picture, leg before wickets, bowled. All the dismissals actually have chance. So that's something should be the approach of this English bowlers, and if they go in with that kind of mindset, I think there is enough in the wicket. Since that both the captains were also confused about what to do exactly, I think England can definitely take advantage of this toss. On the hindsight, it might turn out to be a good toss to lose.
I mean, Ajay, as a batsman, when the ball is doing something, the shorter it is, the better it is for you, isn't it? As a batsman, you don't want the bowler to be pitching the ball full up and moving.
Yeah, because when it's pitched up and it's moving, you've got chances of getting out both sides. Because if it comes in, it hits the wicket. If it goes out, it takes an edge. Whereas if it's higher, then if it comes in, it doesn't hit anything. So 50% of your chances are gone, and it makes it easier for people, especially who are born and brought up in those conditions, to play those cut shot or pull shots, which probably Indians are not. Not Indians today, but in our times, Indians and Pakistanis were not used to. So when it's pitched up, it moves a little more because it has more time. Everything. You need to move your feet. You need to get to the ball. So everything gets that much more difficult.
Two out-and-out quicks on either side. Yeah. There's Archer, to some extent Wood as well. But Archer's amazing. Archer just seems to trot in and bowl at the same pace that Mark Wood seems to strain every muscle to bowl. But look at the numbers. They're not too different. In fact, Ferguson's strike rate is actually slightly better than Archer's. Maybe Archer bowls at the top a little bit on. Archer maybe bowls a slightly fuller length than Ferguson. But two fast bowlers have been the cutting edge.
Different style of bowling, I would say. Lockie plays more of a defending role in those middle overs, but with his pace, he's actually turning out to be a attacking bowler in that phase, because he uses his short ball very well at that stage. If the partnership is set, your two batsmen which are in looking to actually take chances, and that is an opportunity for someone like Lockie Ferguson to encash on, and he has been doing it consistently in the tournament, wherein Jofra Archer has to set the tone of the match. When you're bowling with that new ball, you got to be setting the tone. Where when you look to take that early wicket, and that really sets the tone for the rest of the match. So that is the responsibility which Jofra had, but he's exceptional talent. So you're rightly saying, just jogging in seems like he's not putting in effort.
Where does that bouncer come from?
I think he gets so close to the wicket that, it's very, that's as a batsman, it's easier to pick somebody who comes from wide, because as soon as the ball leaves, you can know where the ball's going. You have line is picked quickly. It's the length that you need to pick. But when somebody comes straight down the barrel, it is that much more difficult to pick the line, because, line is coming straight. So you don't know whether it's going to go this way, that way. It has an opportunity to swing both ways. And then he just bangs it in there. And he puts that little extra pressure. Sometimes I wonder, what is it about this Barbadian cricketers? Because I love West Indies cricket. That's West Indies cricket has always excited me.
You and Hardik Pandya. And Sunil Gavaskar and so many.
Yes,
Indians.
Okay. Then it's fine. Then I'm in good company now.
We just heard something big. Let's look at the list of bowlers. Actually, since you are on fast bowlers, there's only two fast bowlers actually you can add to the list of five. Jasprit Bumrah is just fantastic today. Mustafizur Rahman. It's all been about the quick. Stark is gone, but Archer and Ferguson.
Yeah. Amongst that list, if you see, Stark's done well, Rahman, Jasprit Bumrah has been fabulous, but all those guys have picked wickets in the middle or at the end. Mitchell Stark, only one game that he had an impact at the top. Archer's the only difference in that.
Taking wickets up.
Yeah, he's taken wickets at the end as well, but it's the impact that he has had at the top. With that new ball. All the other fast bowlers. Bumrah's had a great World Cup. Nothing to take away from him. But how many times have we got 2-3 wickets at the top? Not many. Same with Bangladesh left-arm Seema. Same with Mitchell Stark. Mitchell Stark, in fact, if you see the semi-final, they took him off after 3 overs. Why? Because they were waiting for that ball to get reverse swing, start bringing that in. So he has made that impact at the end of the games. We are in this World Cup final where the impact has to happen.
Actually, from that point of view, Vokes has been very good, because Vokes has been taking wickets early on.
Yes.
Because he's
Warner
a
as well,
English Seema.
I think what is another fascinating fact in that list, and a trend which you can possibly see is that most of the bowlers are attacking the stumps. So that is something which is striking out fact from these numbers, that you have to attack stumps, and it's actually again going back to old fashioned bowling.
It's amazing, correct?
Simple.
It's amazing how it has changed. That line that we see in T20 sometimes, just bowl near the tram line, bowl full wide Yorkers, prevent the batsman from scoring runs, which you might have seen in a 360, 370 game. No, the bowlers are suddenly attacking. They're bowling great lengths. It's been a test series,
I think
test match.
That's the difference between T20s and ODIs. Your mindset, you know that there is enough time in the match for you to make the move and think of taking wickets, because that has a bigger impact. 50 overs, it's 300 balls as opposed to 120, so it's 3 times possibly more. So that is something which the percentages which you are talking about, and that changes the mindset. But if you look at the angle of Jasprit Bumrah, it's coming into the right-hander. You look at the angle of Jofra Archer, it's pretty much straight and coming into the right-handers. You have Lockie Ferguson, who is using angle which is wide of the crease, but creating the similar kind of angle going back in. And Mitchell Starc as well is someone who relies on getting that ball back to the right-handers. So that is something which is a glaring fact from that you if you stick to the basics, it doesn't matter what format you are playing, you can still have that impact. And all these bowlers, what Jofra now going in Ashes? He's going to have a bigger impact on Ashes than what he has had in the World Cup.
Ajay, something else happened to the batsmen now as a result of what the bowlers are doing. I remember through the mid-late 80s, early 90s, if you made 50 in the first 15 overs, it was okay. 50 for no loss was a very good start. And I remember 4-5 years back thinking, kya cricket tha yaar tab? 15 over mein 50? And now we actually are going back. In 10 overs, the average score is 40, 41, 42.
Yeah, I think surface have a...
So the point I was making was those kind of batsmen are flowering as well. Whether it's Root, whether it's Williamson, those kind of batsmen are still doing well.
Because they're allowed to take their time, they feel part of the game. Joe Root and Kane Williamson probably, a year ago, in terms of just the year, but when 340, 400 games happen, these are not the important players. They are not your important players. Then it's the guys at the back, whether it's Neesham or, whether it's for England, it'll be Ben Stokes, if he does well or not, or Dhoni or people like that. But when you have a 220 game, 240 game, 260 game, then you need solid players, and that's the game that's going on. The other change is that spinners, you said, spinners didn't pick wickets, because when it's a 380 game, the spinners, when they come on to bowl, the batsmen are taking the chances. When spinner needs, they're all, anybody who is spinner, but how many spinners in this World Cup could bowl a ball to a batsman when he's not ready to get out? If he's ready to play a maiden, there's nothing you can do.
Go back to, as you were gesturing while you were talking.
So if you have that kind of bowler, only then he can do it. So I think each player has his strengths and weaknesses. You got to find a way. And I think perfect example is, Sri Lanka from 92 to 96. It was very similar. The side that they played in 92, the 11 was not much different. I think Vas and Murli came in, big difference. But all the other batsmen, swapped places. They played differently. And what did they do? It's not that they tried and played differently. They played their game that they knew how to play, but they played at different slots. So the slots have changed. These guys have come into all the top scorers. Joe Root, Virat Kohli also I'll include in that at 3. Rohit Sharma is an odd one in that thing. All the top scorers. Who are the guys except for, who's there? Williamson, Root, Shakib, Rohit Sharma, Warner. All players who were batting at the top and could take their own little time. Yeah. Shakib was so important to them, for Bangladesh. But when he used to bat at 5 and 6, the same batting is not good enough.
No.
So at 3, it is
Even
good enough,
Warner,
especially in this tournament.
Even Warner, you see Rohit Sharma's strike rate 98, that came later.
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma's strike rate kept going up. We'll probably talk about this a little more as well in the mid-innings break, because the left-hand fast bowlers in the other side. But left-hand quicks have done really well at the World Cup, at Lord's. What is it about that? Look at the left-arm pace at Lord's this tournament, 39 wickets at 13 and a strike rate of a wicket every 16, 17 balls. Behrendorff's taken 5.
It's very hard to find a correlation as in why that has happened. I think it's just
something about Lord's, the slope or whatever.
Slope does comes into play.
Australia had 2 left-armers out of the 3. Yeah. Pakistan had 3 out of 3. So you had more left-handers bowling at Lord's in this tournament, and that's probably the numbers are looking so good. I don't see there's anything else that...
This bowled well. Is there something that the ball comes back in on the slope a little bit more if you're left-hander bowling from the pavilion end? Or?
Then the right-hander from the other end should get the same
thing. Exactly. So that advantage is there for the right-arm bowlers as well. There is no doubt about it. And that added advantage at Lord's is there, provided you know how to use that slope. Not every bowler can use that slope. Like a bowler like Shami can actually use that slope to great advantage. If he's bowling from the pavilion end, he will get the ball back into the right-hander. And if he's bowling from the nursery end, he will actually get the ball going away from from right-hander. So that advantage is certainly there, but I don't think the slope has always been there, and the numbers in the past have not been suggestive of the fact that left armers have some special advantage here. But this particular tournament, for some reason, it has happened, and one of the reasons is a lot of left armers have played on this this surface. And this of the teams which were playing.
There we were thinking that a left arm fast bowler will say, you know what, Lords में ऐसे करते हैं, फिर गिरने के बाद ऐसे आती है, ऐसे अंदर आती है. Game about to start, World Cup final. Everyone's whatever. Yeah. It's a huge moment, but also it's a moment where we got to start asking our experts about the couch and my 11th circle expert couch.
The expert is behind us. He's the one at the ground. You got to trust. I trust him on reading wickets. There are a lot of players that I would not trust because they read wickets, and
I think it's the toughest thing in the world.
It is.
I think the toughest thing in the world to read a wicket.
Like
given,
you're
a captain.
Like most things, if it's tough, and if you are a kid at 13, 14, 15 in school and making calls on whether you to bat first or not, and keep making mistakes all the way till you get to lead India, you've done it about 200, 300 times. But if you start at under 15 when your coach tells you to bat, without looking at it, if your coach tells you to field, then you will never learn. It is tough, but it should be left for kids to learn after making mistakes. Unfortunately, now the players don't make a call. They have too many coaches at under 15 and they're told what to do, so they don't learn.
I do fantastic pitch reports on matting wickets.
Yeah?
So there's nothing to say.
No, even
it matters on matting wickets.
It matters.
You got to see how much tension.
Tight hai, loose hai, niche kya hai, kankar hai kya nahi niche.
So I'm saying, over the years, when you make that call and you learn when you make a mistake and then when you get it right, which is what doesn't happen.
Okay, today. Win the toss, bat first. What do you foresee?
Well, I got this instinct, where I'm thinking that maybe New Zealand should have bowled first. That's been their strength throughout the tournament. They should have just backed their strength. They could have actually put England down morally in this.
If they got
their morale would have been down if they don't get that 270, 280 runs, and that's something I think New Zealand has missed that boat. Now that boat is sailed, but I still want to back New Zealand. I know that it's going to be very hard for them to win the World Cup this time, but I still want to back them. Say 270. Chalo.
270. The last time there was a World Cup final at Lords,
180.
Pakistan made 120, I think. 130 all out.
I'm getting a funny feeling like that.
Okay, so we got both sides of the story.
No, but I think that's their best chance because, say if England was batting first, you picked a couple of wickets, they've got Butler at 7, 6, they would still get to a total. Even if you get 260, you get 2 good balls going your way, that's your best chance of winning. So I think 268.
249. 249. Chalo, dekhte hain.
Yeah.
We've got just one other thing to do for you before you get into the fun and joy of watching this World Cup final. We've got our joy factor question. Joy, of course, has been here for major parts of this World Cup, and I think he's produced a question worthy of a World Cup final. It's a World Cup final for all you joy factor aficionados as well. Here's the question. On Bangladesh's tour of Kenya in 2006, Mashrafe Murtuza was man of the match with 3 wickets and 43 runs. But he was also part of which extremely unusual instance in international cricket in Kenya. Did they have a deer running onto the field or a giraffe on the field? No. Okay. I don't know.
It was Picolos and Rumbes those days running around.
Correct.
They were a pretty good team.
They were fantastic against Kenya. They were a good side. So send in your responses. We'll of course be back with you midway through a couple of times as well to try in our Cricbuzz Combox 15 and 35 to tell you what's likely to happen, and we'll see which one of Zach's scenarios is likely to play out, whether it's his instinct or whether it's what he wants. We'll be back with you at over number 15. Thanks to Zach and to Ajay, and at different times in this tournament. We are also going to have, on the day today, we're also going to have Robin Uthappa coming in. So there you go. That was My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We'll be back in the Combox after 15.